So I did a journalism today. Actually, I probably did, and we'll get Greg Wyshynski's thoughts on this. I probably did what was not necessarily a journalism, but was an anti-journalism. Because I started with the belief and then went around trying to prove my belief correct. That's not journalism, right, Zach? That's the opposite of journalism. I started with my conclusion and then tried to find facts that fit, to the exclusion of everything else. Is that journalism or is that not journalism? Because that's what I did this afternoon for an hour.
You're talking to the wrong guy. I went like back roads to every path to get to where I am right now.
Same. Very accidental career. I'm like you.
Yeah.
I went into I skated backwards into this thing. We'll ask a real journalist here in a couple of moments, Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. Welcome to the program once again. I don't know that anything's going to top last week when Greg Wyshynski referred to Goalie Drillin as the ultimate Canadian dentist. Honestly, dude, I'm still laughing about that one. I don't know how Wish is going to top that. Like, hologram Bill Masterton was one thing back in the day. Well, I died. Oh, you had a concussion for 2 years? I died. I don't think he's going to top Goalie Drillin as the ultimate Canadian dentist, but we'll find out in a couple of moments. We have a lot to go over today. One of the things that I want to go over, like the anti-journalism that I did today, was watching that Islanders-Columbus game last night. So I got home from the OHL Cup at Scotiabank Pond. We'll get into that in a couple of moments with Wish, because I know he's a big U16 AAA fan. But I caught the end of that Islanders-Columbus game, and I watched enough for Kyle Palmieri to give Elvis Merzlikins the bump, and then the drama that ensued. And listen, like, I'm firmly of the belief that when it comes to the Situation Room, where all the decisions are made on video review, that there needs to be a goaltender in there for just such occurrences. Like, I still maintain that the one call that has been most consistent this season has been goalie interference. Like, once you understand the sort of principles of it, goalie interference is kind of easier now than ever to call. Simple rules, like in the blue, it's on you. You're in the white, you're all right. Things like that. Simple things you can remind yourself, little sort of sing-alongs that'll help you understand whether this is going to be a goal, or as we like to say, a good goal or a bad goal, i.e. either a goal or not a goal. But this one had a lot of gray area attached to it. And it's my belief that if you have, like, if it's your goal to have more goals, if it's your goal in the NHL to have more goals, do it by putting a goaltender in the Situation Room. Here's why. Old goaltenders hate new goaltenders. Old goaltenders, if you catch them when there's not a microphone around or a camera on, they will tell you goalies now are soft, goalies now are pampered, goalies don't battle through anything. That's a goal. They can fight through that. Quit being a wimp. That's a goal. I'm convinced that if you let goaltenders determine it, you will get more goals. And if it was a goaltender, an ex-NHL goaltender, judging that video review yesterday, the Kyle Palmieri bump, Elvis Merzlikins, that would be called a goal. So I called goalies today, all the ex-goalies that I knew, and the answer was unanimous. One, they all think goalies now are soft. Don't you dare say that on this show. Get those words out of your mouth, young man. How dare you? You spit when you say that. I want you to spit right now after you say that. There you go. No, the overwhelming response was, yeah, he's fine. That should be a goal. If I'm a goalie calling that. But I know there's a lot of gray area attached to it. And we're going to get to that issue with Greg Wyshynski here coming up in a couple of moments. But coming up on the program today, Daily Outlines, presented by our friends and partners at FanDuel, North America's #1 sportsbook app provider. Daily Outlines, powered by FanDuel, make every moment more with North America's #1 sports book. And here's what's coming up on the program today. And I swear we're not going to spend the whole day going over goalie interference, but there's going to be some of it. So park it and get used to it and get ready, because it's coming up. As you mentioned, it's Tuesday. That means MvsW, Marek vs. Wyshynski, with Greg Wyshynski from ESPN.com. Again, the challenge is out there. Beat his line last week. Goalie Drillin, the best name for a Canadian dentist. We'll talk about the New Jersey Devils today, because we didn't talk about it yesterday because we plumb ran out of time. Kovacevic versus Keith is on the menu today on our FanDuel daily outlines. We'll get to the New Jersey Devils with Greg. We'll also talk about Jakob Chychrun and his brand new contract and who that sets the bar for. And if you're going to pick a perfect time as a defender to score 18 goals, it is in your contract year, and that's where Jakob Chychrun finds himself. And as I mentioned, we'll talk about goaltender interference. Man, Kyle Palmieri really was not happy by the end of yesterday's game, nor were the Islanders, nor were their fans, nor were ex-NHL goaltender and Islanders head coach Patrick Waugh and the Michigan. We'll talk about the Michigan. We'll talk about Abby Roque, who's actually from Michigan, who I believe, and someone will tell me if I'm wrong, in pro hockey is the first player from Michigan to score the Michigan. How about that? More or less. What's more or less? Is this a wish thing?
Well, we might talk about more, or we might talk about less.
That was your number 6. We might talk about more, or we might talk about... That is our promise to you. Our promise to you is we'll either keep our promise or we won't. How about that?
Yeah.
That's our promise to you. Okay, let's bring aboard. Speaking of, we'll keep our promises or not, that's our promise to you. Here's one and only Greg Wyshynski on the sheet every Tuesday here, MvsW time from ESPN. I don't know if you can do it because you set the bar high with Gordy Drillin, but do you have something ready in your hip pocket later on the program? Because I put I think the crescendo, the zenith, the top of the mountain for MvsW as far as lines go was Well, I Died. Nothing I still don't think is going to defeat that one, but nonetheless, Gordy Drilling came close. So the challenge is out there for you today, Greg Wyshynski. But as we welcome you to the program, first of all, thank you for stopping by once again. What do you think of my theory? If you had goalies making these calls on goalie interference, we'd have more goals because old goaltenders hate new goaltenders. They won't say it publicly, but as I called around 5 or 6 of them this afternoon, they all said the same thing. Yeah, goalies now are pampered. Goalies are too soft. If I was making that call, that's a goal.
Yeah, it's a real back in my day thing. I actually think that there's a comparison to what you're saying, which is when you watch the NFL and you listen to guys like Troy Aikman, for example, talk about roughing the passer penalties in 2025. like there is certainly that they used to hit us over the head with a spiked club and we wouldn't get a call. Back in our day.
You know what one goaltender mentioned to me today is he said one of the funniest things that he sees, and he always, when European goaltenders come to North America playing the NHL, the American Hockey League, in Europe, when a puck hits a goalie in the head, the whistle's blown and the play stops. And what the goalies will do is they'll put their hand up in the air like, hey, I just got rung. Like I just got one off the coconut here. Like let's make with the whistle. And he said one of the funniest things is watching European goaltenders come to North America, get hit in the head, put their hand up, and everyone go like, "What? You have a question? The play is still going on. Like, what, you want to go to the bathroom? Like, what do you need here? Like, we're playing hockey."
Listen, I think there's no question that old school goalies see the way that today's goaltenders benefit from goalie interference calls.
Yeah.
And are like, where was that when I was getting trucked by guys significantly larger than the ones that play today, because now you actually have to skate to play. I didn't have a problem with last night's call. I got to be honest with you. Last night's call was very interesting because it spoke to what happens a lot during controversial plays with regards to social media. And by that, I mean, everybody thinks they're an editor or there's selective editing being done. How many times did I see that goal last night from the Islanders where the initial contact of Palmieri skating through the crease and interfering with Merzlikins' glove? How many times did I see a video where that was cut off, where that somehow didn't make the cut? And then you just see Merzlikins kind of reacting to it and the puck flying by him. I think whether you go by the amount of time between the contact and the goal being scored, or, is the crease supposed to belong to the goalie? Like, he clearly makes contact with him. And, I spoke to Dave Jackson, our rules guy, who I think you've had on the show before.
He's great. Dave's great.
And he is great. And if you see here, look, I mean, he's going through the blue. He's not allowing the goalie to play his position. And if you see the time elapsed between this moment and the puck flying by him, he doesn't have time to reset. It is textbook goalie interference. I know people look at it and look at the subtleties and say, well, that's not really egregious, or he had a chance to make the save. It's goalie interference. Stay out of the blue. Pretty easy call to make, even though it's one that certainly didn't impact the Islanders' playoff chances.
I keep saying it's like the simple little sing along. If you're in the blue, that's on you. Like, I always think about it. Like, I was told a couple of years ago to think about this in terms of liability. And when you go anywhere, and when you go into the crease, whether it's a skate in the crease, whether it's your butt interfering with the goal, when you go into the crease, think about it in terms of liability. Your liability goes sky high. That whatever happens, you are responsible. No ifs, ands, or buts. Do not collect 200. Go directly to jail. Like, that's what happens. Skating in the white, that's all right. Blue's on you. Like, that's and it has been one of the more consistent calls. I think one of the issues in all of this too is the call on the ice was no goal.
Right.
And so the call on the ice is one goal. So you have to in the video review, it has to be demonstrative that there has been a horror. Like, it can't be, if there's any kind of gray area, the call on the ice will always stand. And there was enough there to say, I'm not sure. Well, maybe if you squint, maybe I can see that it's a goal. So you have to defer to the call on the ice. But the thing that does interest me is the conversation. Like, again, like, I think goalie interference has been called very consistently. I know when it's your goal that gets scored, fans get their backs up. I get it. I understand it. But to me, the interesting question is, like, it's moments like this where you do see the different generations. You get the, oh, well, back in my day, we fought through this. And, you know, one of the points that I was making with people today is like, oh, well, you know what? He had time to reset. Let the goalies get bumped a little bit more. If we were, and this is why I like the call. I like the call because if you want to go Nick Suzuki pixel on the offside, if that's how we're going to do it with the offside, then we're going to do it with goalie interference. Like, I'm sorry. He went into the blue. So liability goes sky high. Sorry, no goal. If that's the way we're going to do it around blue lines, that's the way we're going to do it in the crease.
Well, it's also, people say he has time to reset because everybody's watching it in slow motion. Of course he's got time to reset. It's 2 seconds in real time. It's 20 seconds
no, it's
as
not
you watch
2
the
seconds.
replay on Twitter. Like, there's a difference. Let me ask you this question, though, because I realize this is the correct venue for this thought that I've had. I mean, we've all thought about Ovechkin breaking the record, and we've all thought about how that record could be broken. And we might have talked about it briefly, but I know that, you know, it's been out in the world. What would happen if Ovi scores the record breaking goal on a play where there's goalie interference or an offside review? And I'm like, great.
Yeah. Awesome.
Like, I know people have a problem with this, and people are just like, oh God, you know, will the NHL ever take away this? First of all, they won't. And that might be to the detriment of Ovechkin, because, you know, we might look back at that replay one day and be like, yeah, it shouldn't have counted, but I'm sure he'll score a few more after that.
Yeah.
But can you imagine the inherent drama of an entire arena buzzing with the anticipation of seeing history made, and these two zebras are looking at an iPad to see whether or not somebody's glove was moved a millimeter to the right because of a bump in front of the crease by Tom Wilson? Like, all of that is great to me. I don't know why people don't want that at all.
I want that too, because, like, you want the goal. Like, I've always wanted, like, big moments like that to be indicative of the era that it is in. Okay, like, and that's why, like, we're in the era of video review, and we're all getting used to it. So I want that, but then that's why it has to be at home. Yeah, I want to see that official put the headphone down and the helmet on and fade back and get in front of the camera and clear his throat.
Yeah,
as the place is going nuts, and say, no goal.
And then immediately his security detail surrounds him. He's loaded into a bulletproof van, and he is led away from the arena.
It's like the old Pope mobile with the glass. They take over the.
I'm here for goal interference for Ovi. I'm here for offside review for Ovi. Anything that's going to delay the inevitable. The only person that'd be pissed off about it is the play-by-play guy. Let's be honest with you. I mean, like, somebody's probably got something real cooked up for Ovi in that moment, and they can't.
Of course,
they have to be. Wait, there appears to be a meeting by the boards between the officials.
And then it'll be when the record finally does get broken. There'll be the inevitable snarkiness that comes along with it. Are they going to review that too? Is that clean enough for you, NHL? Like, there's going to be that will be attached to the goal forever.
It took longer than expected, but Ovechkin has the record. I think obviously Ovi spot is where we all want to see him score it.
Yes.
If you're talking about appropriate for the career, that'd probably be like the 5-star goal. Empty net, I know that the Capitals have discussed the idea that Ovechkin doesn't want to break the record with an empty netter. I implore him to do it. I mean, he's the all-time leader in empty net goals, correct? I think that's the case. I believe he has the record. I think he might. Zach, double check that, because I think he has the record for that. If not, it maybe he does, or maybe he doesn't. Point being is that I've often engaged with the empty net debate with Ovechkin through his career. And by the way, as I've been doing a lot of Ovechkin stuff like for ESPN in the last couple of weeks, I've come to realize that I've been there since he hatched from an egg. Like, I was covering the Capitals in 2005, and it's kind of crazy to think back to those days of.
I remember videos. I remember watching the videos.
The Matt Pettinger days. It's just like, it's just crazy. It's thinking about how long I've been on the Ovechkin beat. He's earned the right to be out there during empty net situations. That was always a thing that they push back on when people say he was getting cheapies. That's a very important part of the moment of the game. Is you've got to defend your own goal, and if we have somebody who can score an empty netter and end this thing, we're going to put him out there too, as long as he's not a liability. Yeah. And so scoring an empty netter to set the record to me is wholly appropriate. You know, I'll tell you, as much as it would be exciting. Do you know the one thing I don't want to see him do? I don't want to see him score on a breakaway. Ovechkin was never a breakaway guy. He was always the shot. He was always going to be breaking down a defender. I understand the palpable drama of Ovi versus goalie with the record on the line. Maybe it's my Pavlovian response to how much I hate the shootout, that I don't want to see that situation be the record-breaking moment. But when you think about like signature moments or signatures that mark Ovechkin's career, scoring in the breakaway is not necessarily one of them.
Oh no, I want to see him score it on his back. I want the Coyotes goal.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I know we all think about the signature one-timer and all that, but like, honestly, what's the highlight that's going to get played forever and ever and ever and ever and ever?
Yeah.
Sorry. It's the Coyotes goal. By the way, Zach said you're right. It's Ovechkin at 65, Gretzky 56, Marian Hossa, the man who should have retired with how many Selke trophies in his hip pockets. Marian Hossa, one of my favorite players of all time.
This is what I always say. There's two things people know about me. It's my incredible memory when it comes to math and stats and figures, and also my incredible memory when it comes to math and stats and figures. Both of those things.
Not your Dick Tracy like good looks. No, that doesn't come up very much.
No, that doesn't come up. My Dick Tracy like good looks. I look like one of the Rogues gallery. Look like flat top.
But it's funny. I was driving home last night.
Dick Tracy was an Oscar film, by the way. Dick Tracy. Remember Dick Tracy back in like 88 or 89? I guess it was 89. It was after Batman. That was nominated for Oscars. That movie. This
is your bailiwick. Ovechkin 6 goals away from tying. Yeah, there we go. That's right. Yeah, 1480. Oh, really? Games played. Huh.
I was on the. I want to just mention one thing about Ovechkin. You might have talked about it yesterday. I don't know, but I was on the Zoom call with Nick Backstrom on Friday.
Nice.
And I got a little weepy. I got to be honest with you. Like, not physically weepy, but weepy in my soul. The idea that that like Backstrom can't be a part of this physically as Ovechkin goes to break the record. Now, granted, his LTIR money has probably hastened Ovechkin's chance to break the record with the amount of business the Capitals were able to do with that cap space. That being said, I mean, you talk about like guys that were an influential and important reason why Ovechkin's going to break this record.
These two guys wanted to retire together. Like, they wanted the contracts to sync up, like all of it. Like, these guys, great commercials we think about too. Here's the one thing, as we go through everything Ovechkin and everything around this goal. In your perfect world, maybe you just gave us the answer and it's Nick Backstrom. There's another one. The guy probably should have won the Selke along the way. who do you want? Let me give you a list here. Who would be the right person to pass him the puck? Backstrom, Carlson, or the forgotten Mike Green? Remember how much, like every game wish, there's Green again, there's Green again, there's Green again. It was so good for so long. In your ideal world, they're all healthy and they're all playing, and he's scoring from the OV spot. Who's giving him the puck? Backstrom, so there's Carlson, or Green? There's one answer. There's one answer.
No, there's two.
Oh.
There's the answer to your question and then the real answer. The answer to your question is Backstrom. When I think about how sad Connor Bedard is right now with the Blackhawks, I think specifically about how many friends Ovechkin had by his second or third season. Backstrom, Green, Semin, all those guys started to come on board for the Caps. That's when the Rock the Red era started, the Young Guns era. It was the most fun time, I think, of Ovechkin's career.
So much fun.
And Backstrom then and then throughout Ovi's career is the guy. He's the center. He's the setup man. He's the Oates to his Hull. I mean, he's an incredible reason why Ovechkin is where he is now. Now, the Marvel Multiverse answer to your question. If I could pick anybody to send that puck to Ovechkin in the Ovi spot for the record-breaking goal, it'd be Sidney Crosby. Let's be honest with you. It would be Sidney Crosby, the Capitals and Penguins doing business, Crosby and Ovechkin uniting at the end of their careers, they're friends.
Rocky
the mega
Apollo,
powers
is that what
the
this
Capitals.
is? Rocky, Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa?
Yeah, and it gives Crosby a chance at the Cup. It gives the Capitals another elite player on a team that people claim doesn't have enough elite players to win the Cup. Crosby threading a pass to Ovechkin so he can break Gretzky's record. I mean, again, this is alternate history of alternate histories.
Yeah,
that would be if you're asking me what I'd want to see, that's what I would want to see. All due respect to all the Penguins fans in the audience right now, sharpening their machetes as they think about what I just said.
Here come the pitchforks for Greg Wyshynski. Just remember, it's that side of the screen that's saying that. It's not this side of the screen. It's that side of the screen that's
Evgeny
talking
Malkin
about
just
this here.
spit out his borscht all over his computer screen. And he's just like, what?
Okay, let me go from Washington to Michigan, and I'll just throw this out as a conversation point and see where it goes. So Abby Roque from the New York Sirens scores the first Michigan in PWHL history. And Zach and I were talking about this here, like, we haven't showed it, we got to show it, a cool moment. I know cynically I always say, like, okay, so it's a wraparound. So it's a high wraparound bravo. Like, a lot of people can do this now. Part of the shine is off the rose about it, but still, like, it's a significant event. It's the first one in the PWHL. Abby Roque is actually from Michigan. And I don't know if... maybe not in all of pro hockey. Like, that's a great move. Look at that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is she, certainly for the PWHL, obviously, and I think for the NHL, is she actually the only person from Michigan to actually do the Michigan professionally?
As far as I know, she's only the third women's player that we know that has successfully executed a Michigan.
Yeah.
There was that young player from Slovakia.
Yep.
I think there was a player from Brown University, and then there's Abby Roque. I don't think that I haven't done the research, so I couldn't tell you definitively.
No, I know. I'm just seeing where the conversation goes.
Michigan. But I do love one aspect of this. If you can run that highlight again, Zach, look at the goalie on the play. She knows what's happening, and you can see the realization in real time. But could not stop it. Look at her. Look at glove up. I know where she's going with it. I know what's happening. But she couldn't do it. She couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. You've seen the fake Michigans now, right? Where you fake the wrap and leave the puck and the other player comes around and tucks it in.
Yeah.
Have you've seen see that now to me is more impressive. That's where I'm at. Or even maybe that's become a little bit too hipster.
Here's how I feel about trick shots in hockey right now. I feel like I love anybody on YouTube that's creating magic with their stick and a puck. I think that stuff is addictive, and I could probably just marinate it for a few hours. But I don't think that the NHL the NHL's young generation of players has delivered on the promise of the Trevor Zegras assist. When that happened,
the Sonny Milano, him and Sonny Milano,
when he
the bunt,
yeah. So when he ends up on the cover of a video game for having basically done an assist, at that moment I'm just like, oh my god! Like all the guys that are Zegras' age grew up on YouTube watching trick shots, understanding what could be done with a puck. They grew up in the era of the Michigan, and I'm thinking to myself, get ready for it. The floodgates just opened. We're going to see.
Did you think it was going to be like that? Did you think it was going to be all Globetrotters?
I did because not only do you have like incredibly creative players like Zegras in the league, who at that point, was on an upward trajectory, no longer is on, but you had the game was ready for it. The game was so fast and so open, it's so offensive, and you have all these young creative players playing it with almost like a street hockey vibe to it. I'm just like, oh, here we go. Like we're going to get a Zegras to Milano every few weeks, and I don't think that's happened.
But the thing,
maybe they've been shamed by the older generation to not be so fancy. I don't know, but I feel like the promise of the Zegras
I don't think it's that. I think if players could do it, they would do it more often. I really do. Like you saw that. In the St. Louis game, they bunted the puck in the air 3 times before Robert Thomas scored. Like
it was awesome.
It was fantastic. Like I don't expect the NHL to be like that, mainly because there's not a lot of room out there. Like now we're in the era where everybody can skate, and like there's like the gap. Yeah, have a look at Chicago, St. Louis. Like let them fire this around in the air. This is like we keep talking about Globetrotters. That's Globetrotters. Okay, like the puck's in the air, and they're bunting it around, and there's Robert Thomas scoring at the end. And look at those. Better put on a mouth guard, man. Those teeth are white.
Here's where I'll push back on it. When you say there's not a lot of room out there,
there's not.
There's a portion of some games, not every game, but some games, in which the National Hockey League removes 4 players from the ice. So you just have 3 on one side, and 3 on the other side. It is more real estate than you could possibly imagine for a competitive hockey game. And you have the chance to do whatever you'd like with the puck. And I feel like one of the underlying things about the 3-on-3 was to generate kind of like video game-esque highlights.
Yeah.
And we get great moments. And the 3-on-3, I'll take that 1 billion times over the shootout for the sheer spontaneity of it all. But as a highlight generator, I'm not quite sure if the 3-on-3 has delivered either.
Listen, when 3-on-3 is bad, it's really bad. When 3-on-3 is great, like when 3-on-3 is good, like it's awesome. There's nothing like it. Here's the one sort of trick shot that I thought we were going to see more of, and this is a tip of the hat, Robbie Schremp, and Robbie Schremp would do this every now and then. We think of the Michigan, scoop up the puck and it's high wrap, but Robbie Schremp would pick up the puck sometimes like at the blue line, scoop it up and fire it at the net. So the shot's not coming from the ice. Goaltenders are used to seeing shots coming from the ice. This one starts up here and goes in straight. I thought by now, like that's the one area that I'll concede in this argument. That's the one area that I thought, okay, we're going to see more of these. Everybody can pick up the puck. Everybody everyone in hockey, my kids do it. Like everybody does it. Everyone can pick it up. I thought we would see more kids, younger players in the game, picking up the puck and firing it shoulder height at goaltenders. That hasn't happened. That's the one I'm waiting for.
But maybe that's the trick, is that like shoulder height gets you into that sort of danger zone of maybe it's too high, right?
Maybe. I don't know, but didn't you think we would? But we've seen passes like I've seen passes like mainly in junior hockey. We've seen passes like that, but I'm waiting for shots on net like that. I think again, like we're in the era. We're in the era where like goalies are like we're trying to like forwards are trying to anticipate where goalies are going to go, where they are, where they're expecting shots from. Like I was having a conversation. Like I spent the afternoon talking to goaltenders about my goofy idea: put goalies in video review, and all the goals are going to count because they think the goalies are too soft. But one goaltender I was talking to today, we were talking about the reverse VH on the post, and I said like. Look, I hate to say this, and I apologize to goaltending parents out there, but I always tell my kids, like, you're beside the net, and the goalie's down, reverse VH, shoot at his head. Like shoot at his head. You will bounce it. Like, sorry, but like you're going down underneath the crossbar like that. Fire it at like. That's where we're at now, is reacting to what the goalie is going to give you, what the goaltender is going to expect. And if the goalie's always expecting the puck to come from the ice, lift it up and throw it. I haven't seen goals thrown in yet.
Jack Hughes has done that. He's that's almost like a signature move for him from the
Draisaitl too.
Net. Yeah,
Hughes is probably better at it than Draisaitl, but Draisaitl is the same thing. Hughes is great at it. Yeah, I feel bad for him.
Now I have to relight my votive candle in the corner for Jack Hughes for having.
Okay, let me.
Folks, if you're a Devils fan.
You got us on the Devils, so let me ask you this one: what did you make of during MvsW Kovacevic versus Keith? I was like, if I'm Kovacevic, I'm like, I didn't. What did I say that was so bad? I thought I was giving a really boring answer, and now my coach is taking a run at me.
That was really angsty on this part. I mean, like, I know why he's angsty. I mean, his team has not played well since the beginning of January. He doesn't have Jack Hughes. He doesn't have Dougie Hamilton. They're scratching and clawing and trying to, qualify for a playoff berth that they'll just make a cameo appearance in. Get some playoff revenue and then see you next year because they don't have their best player. I think it was sort of like, everybody's got a family. Sometimes, you yell at somebody just because they're there. Like you're having a terrible day, and unfortunately, someone is in the crosshairs because of it. Yeah, it kind of felt like that. It kind of felt like I'm so angry and frustrated about how everything is going. I'm gonna use this guy as a point of emphasis. I felt bad for Kovacevic because he had a really good season. He's earned the extension. But
him and Siegenthaler together have been. I know, before the Siegenthaler injury, like it kind of softened a little bit. But like honestly, Siegenthaler and Kovacevic this year, to make the argument, best shutdown pair in the NHL.
The Devils are very much like that college basketball team who loses their best player in the conference tournament. And then they still have enough to qualify for March Madness, but they're like, we ain't winning March Madness without our leading scorer. Like, this is insane. Yeah. We'll go and we'll be in the bracket and such, but we kind of know what our lot in life is. And there are some nights the Devils have played really well, and there are some nights when you could see the mental lapses. I think the amount of times they give up a goal right after scoring one is a good indication of where your heads are at as a team. You hope that they leave the season with a sense of some optimism with Jack coming back next year. But the one part of it that is kind of a little bit disconcerting is Jacob Markstrom, goaltending savior, has not manifested for them at all this season, to the point where I think that Jake Allen's been demonstrably the better goalie for them. Now, granted, again, it's like you're building a tandem. And so if one guy's down, you do have the other option, which is something they haven't had in years past. But,
here's the thing
that's a big addition that was supposed to fix a problem, and it hasn't necessarily fixed the problem.
But here's the thing about Jacob Markstrom, though. We've seen this before. Crude analogy, but it's like the toilet seat at a Stag and Dough. It's up and down. It's up and down. It's up and down. Like one season, Vezina. Next season, it's a tough one. Next season, Vezina. Next season, oh, geez. Okay, like that's kind of been the story of Jacob Markstrom, no?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the problem is right now it's all over the rim and someone on the floor.
That's the problem right now for the Devils. Extend the metaphor there a little bit for Jacob Markstrom.
Someone stood back to see if they could set a new record, and they missed it entirely.
So I'm gonna try to spell my name. There's no sno here. Speaking of goaltenders, let me lob this one out at you today. In the spirit of God, we always crush the Buffalo Sabres. I feel so bad, too. Rochester Americans are playing great. I got to remind everybody. Rochester's been great. One thing I want to point out.
The unofficial team of this podcast, I believe, right?
Yeah. Cheering for and Noah Ostland, who's been fantastic, who on the weekend had a goal where he scored 5-on-5, shorthanded, and on the power play as well. This guy's going to be so good. He looks so awesome. Oh, here we go. Here, let's see. Listen, here's our Rochester, our Rochester board for the day. On the 28th, they'll face off against the Bridgeport Islanders. They'll take on the Syracuse Crunch on the 29th. And then on the 30th, once again, against the Syracuse Crunch, the AHL affiliate for your Tampa Bay Lightning. Fourth in the American Hockey League, second in the North. They were 2-1 over the weekend. Last 10 games, 4-4, 0-2. And Noah Ostlund, 4 goals in 3 games, 5 points. And this is someone who's going to play in the NHL for a long time once the Buffalo Sabres realize what they have. But here's the thing that I want to mention. In the sort of spirit of players escaping to greener pastures. And we all look now, it's happening again with Dylan Cousins. Here's who I wonder about next. And this obviously is for the offseason.
What a grim, horrible conversation for our friends in Buffalo is like,
I know.
Which meaty part of the carcass can the vultures snatch next? Okay, go ahead.
Here's what I don't hope. I hope the Buffalo Sabres don't look at this and say something like, I hope they don't, essentially what I hope they don't do is blame the goalie. But if they do, I wonder if someone could steal Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen from them in the summer.
Yeah, he becomes the next Linus Hallmark.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, Greg Wyshynski. That's what I'm saying. Could he be?
I just hope that Owen Power remembers to, mention UPL in his Vezina speech for another team one day. I remember playing for with this young man on the Sabres.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry, it's not Vezina, Norris. Norris, I blew the joke. Point being is that I think that's probably the guy. You're right. I mean, when you look at the roster now, and there might be a few younger guys that have the upside that a Dylan Cousins has, but
here's the reason I mentioned Luukkonen. He's from a previous administration. He hasn't had the best of all possible seasons, and at various times he's been very out of favor with this management group. We can recall how he couldn't even get into a game. The kickoff last season was like 7 games in a row. He was the third goalie, the one that was out. Like, I don't know. I just wondering about that today for no particular reason.
This is why the world needs you. Because who is wondering anything about the Buffalo Sabres on March 25th?
I grew up with the Sabres. I told you about this.
Literally everybody in the league except for the Sabres, Predators, Blackhawks, and Sharks, and maybe the Kraken, I guess, are currently in playoff contention. And we're like, who's the next rancid piece of meat to fall off the buffet onto the floor that someone will pick up and make a delicious burger out of?
Yeah, Luukkonen, UPL. Watch. Okay. Really. Happier times. Happier things. What a great time to have the season that Jakob Chychrun has had for the Washington Capitals. Greg Wyshynski, $9 million AAV. Now, you look at the free agent pool that's coming out this year, and you look at the defensemen that are available, whether it is, Aaron Ekblad would lead that charge. So I don't know necessarily right away that everyone's going to ring the bell. Like, Neil Pionk's coming out too. I don't know that Neil Pionk's walking in there and saying like, well, this is what Jakob Chychrun got, so damn it, this is what I'm going to get. But nonetheless, thoughts on the on the Chychrun deal here?
I mean, clearly, look, he's had a career year with the Capitals. I don't want to say he was a distressed asset, but he certainly wasn't. He certainly wasn't this guy when they acquired him last summer for Jensen and a third. It is funny to think that at the moment he makes as much against the cap as Roman Josi and Cale Makar. That'll change really quickly in the near future. But it tells me two things. It tells me, one, that the Capitals are comfortable with Chychrun fitting in the system they play and not being impacted by getting this kind of contract to the point where they believe that they've found the heir apparent to John Carlson, who turns 36 next year, and I think is in the last year of his contract next year too. And then the other thing too is that, when I saw the cap hit, I'm like, oh, that's right. This is what people like Jakob Chychrun are going to make now that we know where the cap is going for the next 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. It's that moment of sticker shock that will occur whenever anybody signs a contract for the next calendar year, and then a moment of realization that this is going to look really good within 2 years. Provided that he doesn't that he's still the guy that he is, but this year for the duration of at least the next 5 years of the contract.
What I always enjoyed about Jakob Chychrun, and I watched him play. I want to get the OHL Cup here in a second. I watched him play like for the Junior Canadians when he was playing U16. He looked when he was 15 years old like he looks now. Like he's always looked like he's 27, 28 years old. Like it's remarkable. Like he was mature, like well beyond his years. I remember watching him play for your favorite OHL team, Sarnia, and just making him. Baby. I know you love this. You love this thing. And like this guy looks like, put it this way, I always used to make the joke that if Jakob Chychrun playing in the OHL were Russian or had a Russian last name, we wouldn't believe the birth certificate. Because he always looked like he was 30. Like Chikrinov, Grigorenko, no chance. There's no way. We're not buying the birth certificate at all. No chance. No way.
Now, I was sorry. I was looking for the link, and I've of course naturally buried it on my computer. But did you talk about that Jakob Chychrun is going to try to live a life where he doesn't have light bulbs in his house?
Haven't mentioned it yet. Seen it? I haven't seen that.
Have you seen it? So he was on an NHL podcast recently. Here we go. Okay, this is I'm sorry. Dylan Strome was on the.
And was this the one he's mentioning Chychrun's diet and lifestyle?
He was on NHL Unscripted, which is the NHL podcast.
Yeah.
And Strome was on there, and he was talking about that. Quote: he has a new thing every day. I heard yesterday that he's no light bulbs. He's doing candlelit in his house now. That's what his thing was yesterday. So he's on to beeswax candles is what I heard, that they're great for you. So now we're all talking about beeswax candles. So Jakob Chychrun apparently is living an incredible Spartan life in which he is no longer trying to infect himself with artificial light, I say, as I sit before three giant lights pointed at me, courtesy of the ESPN Corporation. Thank you for helping with my home setup. And is going to be, I guess, wearing his nightcap and gown and walking around with a little candle from going to room in his house. His beeswax candle. Yeah, that's the guy who just signed an 8-year deal with the Capitals.
Let me ask you this though. If we didn't have all of the responsibilities of family and job and all these types of things, would you not want to try to see if you could live like that? I know I would. I'd love to see how long I could hang in there and if I could actually do it and what I take for granted every single day. Again, like they're just like the realities of the lives that we've made for ourselves and the responsibilities that come along with them. And these are why we have to do certain things. But is there not a part of you that says, you know what, I kind of really admire that because I wonder if I could do it?
So this is the problem with your query, which is that
there would still be weed though, so that's okay. There'd still be weed. Like
that's fine because that grows in the ground. Again, I referenced this line from the movie Knocked Up all the time. It's the advice the late Harold Ramis gave to Seth Rogen in that movie. No powder, no pills. If it comes from the ground, it's probably okay. I think that is the greatest parental advice I've ever heard in any pop culture ever.
I don't know. I got some advice once. Everything is edible, but some things are only edible once.
That's right. Okay, so when you say it, right, are you talking about living without artificial light? Are you talking about living without electricity?
Yes, all of it. Like
how are we getting our food? Are we growing it?
Growing it, yes.
Okay. So
I've thought about it plenty. Like, could I survive? Could I really? Like, am I that far removed as a human being from our ancestors that there's no way that I could survive in that?
I've thought about this too, and where I struggle with it is how do I get meat? Because I am admittedly one of these people that likes to stick his head in the sand and not think about where my burger comes from. So if I can get meat from a neighbor and not have to do it myself, then I'll be all right. There is a part of me that is drawn to, we're heating our house with the wood in the stove.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And we're sitting in the corner with a candle and we're reading books. and we're not worrying about anything except having to get up at 5 the next morning to tend to the farm. Like, there's something beautiful about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think to myself, inevitably there will be somebody who shows up on my property and starts yelling, Why do you hate the Penguins? Why are you so mean to is it because you're a Devils fan? Because you don't like the Penguins because you're a Devils fan? I'm like, I haven't been a hockey writer in like 5 years. I'm living on this farm now.
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing this? In 2014, you wrote that you think that Sidney Crosby is only the 7th best player ever and not the 6th. Do you hate the Penguins? Like, how did you find me? I'm on a farm.
I remember asking, and this one makes a lot of sense to me. I remember asking Dan Carlin at one of the events that I did with Dan, who was the best from Hardcore History. I said, Dan, if you could have a choice of either living in the future or living in the past, what would you choose? And I thought that as a historian, Dan would say the past. And he said, no, the future. And I said, I'm kind of surprised, Dan. I thought you would have said the past. Why do you say the future? And he said, dentistry. That's why. Dentistry. Much better now than it was.
And we figured out what to do about polio. You know, like, there's a lot of things that technology has helped us with. No, I am all about I came to a new appreciation of technology after we had Iris, my 1-year-old, in that when I raised my elder daughter, we didn't have the benefit of a lot of the technology we have today, whether it's the formula dispenser or the bottled desanitizer, or even the ability to go on Reddit and being like, here's a rash, what could it be? Yeah. You know, those things are great. And it gave me a new appreciation of technology as a parent. That being said, when I think about the future, I think about how technology goes bad. We have robots now that dance. I just saw a clip of a robot doing things that humans can do, and all I can think of is that
I know.
We're gonna have an entire economy built on the backs of robots, and we're not built to make it the Gene Roddenberry-esque existence where everybody is taken care of financially and the robots do all the work. We're not ready for it. We don't know how to do it.
So. Hang on, a couple really quick from the chat. Big Willie Styles, Jeff and Greg are having senior moments. Yeah, that's true. The other one, Camp Demamp, Industrial Society and its power play. That's really good. That's really good. How does that?
I just realized there are some people that consume the show and that consume my time on the show every Tuesday and don't understand that this used to happen 5 times a week.
I know, every day at 1 o'clock because of the egos. Well, every day at 1 o'clock.
It would be a conversation, like we would pitch it as, we're going to talk about who's going to win the Stanley Cup, and then someone tunes in and it's like, well, of course you'd have to learn how to work a plow, and then you'd probably have to figure out, and then would you? No, would we have an outhouse? Would there be plumbing?
Max R. How long until robot refs? Ooh, good one, Max R. Anyway, so we got a couple of minutes. What do you got? So I got one more that I want to mention to you.
I did bubble watch today on ESPN where we get into the percentage and the probabilities of teams making the playoffs, advancing the playoffs, what have you. It made me excited that we're going to get a hell of a finish here in the regular season, because a few bad games either way for the Habs or the Blues, and things can get really chaotic. But it made me sad to realize that we are going to lose either the Dallas Stars or the Colorado Avalanche in the first round.
Don't care.
And it probably is going to be the Dallas Stars.
Don't care.
Based on the health of Miro Heiskanen and based on how the Avalanche are playing right now. Want them. I
want those teams. And again, like I say this, knowing that Heiskanen is not going to come back to the second round, according to Peter DeBoer. I want the best teams when they are the healthiest. I don't care. Give me that in the first round. That's fine. You lose Dallas in the first round. Oh, well. Stakes are high. Give it to me all day long.
Don't get me wrong. Like, the Mikko Rantanen of it all is beautiful. Like, that is an incredible soap operatic moment for the NHL. But it got me thinking about how is the winner of that series going to represent the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup final? And I think the answer could be yes.
I remember years and years ago going to see Phil Collins at the CNE. And you know what? Yeah, and Chester Thompson on drums. One of my favorite drummers of all time. Loved him on Roxy and Elsewhere, the Frank Zappa Band, 1974. So Phil Collins is a great show too. Man, when he was like in his height of power, he was great. He opened with "In the Air Tonight." I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Like, you come out and play your big, massive hit right away. Like, apparently, like, Lionel Richie opens up with Sunday Morning. Like, whoa, holy smokes. That's why. It's moments like that where I say, give me Colorado and Dallas in the first round. NHL, lead strong. Lead with an awesome matchup. That is Phil Collins starting his concert off with "In the Air Tonight." That's what that is.
Yeah, and there's a chance we can get the Battle of Florida, the Battle of Ontario, and Dallas, Colorado in the first round, which is why the first round of the playoffs is always
always the best
time to be alive.
It's the best.
If Dallas somehow gets past Colorado, they're winning the cup, and I think that Colorado right now for me is the scariest team in the West. I think we all have to come to the realization we're probably headed for Colorado and Florida. Like, I think that's might be the thing that happens this year, which would be fine by me. That's a banger of a final. That's a banger of a final.
It's a great final. I keep saying that again, like sort of fantasy booker in this one. I kind of want Colorado and Carolina. I want the Rantanen Cup, like I do. I'm sorry, like I want Colorado, Carolina.
You'd love a Rantanen Cup.
Yeah,
it'd be the Marty.
And Rantanen comes out to give out the cup instead of the commissioner. How about that?
There's still gets booed.
Still gets booed. Yeah, doesn't matter who comes out.
Do you? The only part of the Colorado thing I'm curious about is Blackwood. Like, he's not done this before.
I love him.
It doesn't mean he can't. Doesn't mean he can't. And the team in front of him might be good enough where he just has to kind of do the Darcy Kuemper thing and not lose the series.
I think Mackenzie Blackwood's a really good goaltender. I think that contract is excellent. And let's just remind everybody who was in net when the Colorado Avalanche last won the Stanley Cup. Let's all hold hands and say it together, Darcy Kuemper.
The guy who's going to lead the Kings to eliminate the Oilers in the first round for the first time in 4 tries.
I don't laugh at that. I don't laugh at that at all. And again, like I was saying yesterday on the show, like I know a lot of people are, I don't want to see Edmonton, LA again. Effing right, I do. I want to see it now more so than ever. I know all of a sudden, like LA is a much better. Give me that. I'll take that. Yeah, thank you. I'll take LA.
It's called a hero's journey, people. You have to overcome great obstacles. Read some Joseph Campbell. No, I completely agree with you, especially because the Kings are going to have home ice advantage, and they are the stupidest, goodest team on home ice that we've ever seen. They had a 14-game point streak on home ice, which was a franchise record for the Kings. Like their home record is one of the most underappreciated stats of the entire season.
When we look at stats for the season, let me close on this one. Will we look back on this season? Like, I don't think they're going to win the Stanley Cup, but this may be the most impactful move that we saw all season long. And that is the Doug Armstrong offer sheets to Broberg and Holloway, which have paid off in major spades and hastened this rebuild of the St. Louis Blues to the point where St. Louis Blues is going to make the playoffs, for crying out loud. And again, we always think about cascading effects and the copycat league and aping whatever is successful from the year before, leading into more offer sheets this summer. Because if Army can do it, then we all can. My question is about Doug Armstrong. As we look at the General Manager of the Year award, one, he's from the old school. From the old Vanguard, but we all know how some managers feel about offer sheets. Do you think that enough managers, and it's not just managers, but primarily it is, who vote for this award, do you think that Doug Armstrong would get enough votes from fellow managers? I don't think he's getting one from Edmonton. I don't think Stan Bowman's going to vote for Doug Armstrong on this award. But do you think it's just business? It's just business, Stan. It's just business.
I would offer sheet my mom, he said, or whatever he said at the time. Remember that? That was great.
Yeah, I know. Do you think that there would be enough votes for Doug Armstrong if St. Louis gets in for General Manager of the Year?
I do. If you're asking me if the offer sheet thing will be a detriment to his support, I don't. Like, I think all these guys understand the way the game is played, and quite frankly, he probably has a lot of fans for having taken something off the Oilers after they made the Cup final last year and diminished them as a contender, right? Problem is that Chris Patrick exists and Chris McFarland exists. And I don't know how either of those guys.
Can Chris Patrick win that one, or does Brian McClellan have to get that one, even though he's not a GM anymore? Those were all his moves. Patrick was there. Patrick, I'm not disqualifying Chris Patrick.
Photo. I don't know. Like when McCrimmon got all the love, does McPhee get love too? I don't know, how it works. But my point being is that the moves the Capitals made to elevate from how did they get in last year to they're going to win the President's Trophy, and the moves that Colorado made. I mean, again, the beautiful thing about Colorado is that people remember the Rantanen trade, and they remember the deadline moves where they get Coyle and Nelson and Lindgren, and they're just rocking and rolling.
They redid their goaltending. Their whole goalie crease was all
they
changed.
Had the Stones to nuke their goaltending that early in the season.
Early. I mean, honestly, early they said we've seen enough. Which managers look at both goaltenders and say we've seen enough of this crap. We've seen enough.
I know the guy yelling at me on my farm is a Colorado fan that still thinks as a Devil fan I have it in for them because of what happened in 2001, which who cares? But I want to tell Colorado fans, I have an affinity for your team because from a managerial standpoint, you need the flatbed that moves houses down the highway to handle the stones on that management team for the moves that they've made this year, whether it's the goalie thing, whether it's the Rantanen thing, whether it's the machinations of the trade deadline. I want Colorado to win because of the audacity of what McFarland has done as general manager there. I am endlessly impressed with what they've done this season.
Don't disagree. I know you're going to be disappointed we don't have time to talk about the OHL Cup. Maybe we can hold on to that.
Oh, shoot.
The championship is Friday. I know.
The champion on the wall says I can't talk about junior hockey, so I guess we'll just
it's not even junior hockey. We're talking about U16 hockey, so it's not even junior hockey yet. It's still the kids. Yeah, it's the OHL Cup.
Right, don't worry about it.
You be good. Yeah, I know. Gary Roberts' kid looked good yesterday, Sam. He's an overtime winner against Vaughn. Anyhow, we shall let you go on that. Exactly.
Restrict his diet more and have him doing, pulling whatever the hell Gary Roberts has them pulling.
Finish all your vegetables too, Sam. All those vegetables have to be off the plate. You be good. We'll talk in 7 days.
Bye.
The one and only Greg Wyshynski from ESPN joining me here every Tuesday on the program for a little bit of MvsW love. Okay, Zach, we still got more to get to here today. And want to remind people it's going to be a very busy day around the NHL, and a very busy day, Zach, for you, and a very emotional day, I am sure, for Scott Lawton. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. Roster updates, as always, you can find in our daily Faceoff fantasy feed on Twitter/X, no matter what you call it. It's updated all day long. And listen, there's a few intriguing ones. Once upon a time, the Battle of the Keystone State was a really big deal. Philadelphia facing off against the Pittsburgh Penguins. But Toronto facing off against Philadelphia. What do you make of this one at Scotiabank Arena? Scott Lawton front and center.
Scott Lawton revenge night. I've got Scott Lawton anytime goals. I'm loading up on those. It's Scott Lawton every way you can find it tonight, Jeff. That's what the big story is for me. I don't know. In all honesty, this is a Flyers team that is not going to back down in any type of way, and I want to see how this Leafs team responds after what just happened on Saturday against Nashville, because they said, we're here to play, and then after the first period, they're like, well, we were here to play. We'll see you on Tuesday. So I don't know. This is a frustrating team, man.
I'm not going to drag. I'm not going to drag you through.
I'm not going to drag you over. How am I going to answer this question?
I'm not dragging you over. I'm not dragging you over the glass anymore. I'm not dragging you over the glass. Too many cuts, and the cuts are too deep already. I'm not going to get chopped up. The one game that I'm looking forward to here, and there's a few beauties on the schedule, but two of my favorite teams to watch right now are going head to head tonight. It's the Montreal Canadiens and the St. Louis Blues. That's the one that I'm looking forward to tonight, as both of them continued their wonderful / maybe improbable march to the Stanley Cup playoffs. That is the one that I've got my eyes on. Make no mistake about it. Washington and the Jets, you'll look at that and you'll say, these are the two teams that might be the best in the NHL, and nobody believes in either of them. No one's saying the Jets are going to win the Stanley Cup, and no one's saying the Washington Capitals are going to win the Stanley Cup. They're the two best teams in the NHL, and they're going head-to-head tonight at the Canada Life Center in Winnipeg. So that's going to be a good one. But to me, again, like just as someone who watches just because like these are fun teams to watch, two fun teams to watch, Montreal, St. Louis does it for me. I know you got your eyes on Toronto and Philadelphia, but that's the one for me.
That one exciting, especially playoff implications. The other one for me right now that I'm looking at is Washington Winnipeg tonight.
Yeah, man.
Kind of excited about that one. Just good hockey. Good, fun hockey. Rangers,
I want to see if Calgary can pull off another comeback. Like I want Seattle tonight to go up like 5 Cobb, and then just to see if Calgary can do like another improbable comeback with Jonathan Huberdeau with this like remarkable comeback season. Just when you thought like the Flames are going to rebuild, here comes Jonathan Huberdeau saying, "Hey, remember me?" Like not that he's going to be the 115 guy again, but still like he's having a wonderful season. We'll see if what happens with the Flames and the Seattle Kraken tonight. Speaking of teams that are trying to march into a playoff spot, perhaps unexpectedly. Last word to you, Zach. Anything that we thought we left off the program today that we can pick up tomorrow?
No, that was it.
Did we cover it?
We got everything there. Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Man, that's like 2 days in a row. I may take the rest of the week off.
Pat Maroon was on Morning Cup of Hockey this morning. Make sure to go watch that after you finish watching this here.
So good. You should always be watching Morning Cup of Hockey every morning, 9 o'clock Eastern. Pat Maroon, really good, really solid, no surprise. I did enjoy the way that Colby tried to give him shit for not making his announcement on their show, instead choosing to do it, I don't know, on like national television with Darren Pang and an adoring audience and First Star and all those types of things. When you add everything together, even Colby Cohen was saying like, okay, I kind of get the way why you wanted to do it. But it's a great interview. He's always a great interview. And it sounds very much like he wants to end up on a panel here for the playoffs somewhere. And it looks like he's going to at least investigate the idea of doing media in some capacity once it's officially over for Pat Maroon. So congrats to Pat Maroon. Again, go and check out that show. It's in the archives right now. Morning Cup of Hockey should be a morning starter for all of you. It is for me and Zach. Hope it is for you. If not, change your schedule, folks, and make it your morning starter. If not, go listen to the archives either on YouTube or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Got it? Just like this program. And thanks to Greg Wyshynski from ESPN for stopping by as he does every Tuesday. We're back again tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern for The Sheet. How about that? 10 games tonight around the NHL, 10 games on the board. Pick one, pick two, pick all of them. Select a few. But make sure to check out St. Louis, Montreal. That one should be fun. Washington and the Jets, as Zach was mentioning, that should be a good one too. And Scott Laughton night in Toronto as the Maple Leafs face off against the Philadelphia Flyers. Got it? Thanks for hanging out in the chat. Some great stuff there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. On behalf of everybody here, Marek signing off. We're back tomorrow. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.